Palantir stock is the main subject of today's video. Folks, big news in regards to Palantir here today, okay? Webbush's Dan Ives, who's a pretty famous analyst, I think probably one of the most known analysts on Wall Street, he explains why Palantir is the Messi of AI, calling it the Leo Messi of AI. Whoa, you gotta be flipping my flapjacks. Palantir shares jump as Webbush initiates with outperform. Oh boy, okay. Well, look out. Wall Street's starting to find out about this Palantir company, okay? So we're going to speak about that in today's video, okay? Then I want to go ahead and react to this one from about 3 hours ago. We have entered into a renewed era of stock picking. So I want to hear what this gentleman has to say in regards to that and kind of react to that and kind of give my perspectives and opinions. And yeah, if you own Palantir stock like I do, it is a very good day for you folks, okay? Palantir is my second best performing stock here today. It's up 10%. So congrats all Palantir bulls. We're starting to get on Wall Street's radar a little bit here, which can only be helpful because I can tell you there's a lot of folks that don't own Palantir, don't know anything about this company, and you know, I think it's going to be very helpful, let's just call it, to the stock price over time as more and more Wall Streeters find out about this. So, alrighty, let's go ahead and get into this. Appreciate everybody joining me as always. Thanks for being subscribed, folks. New all-time high subscribers. And also, put together a brand new workshop for you guys literally about a night ago. That's going to be pinned comment down there for access to that. It's how I find 10x stocks. It's about a 30-minute workshop. You'll get a lot of value from that. It's absolutely free, and it is the pinned comment down there. Alrighty, let's get into this.
I mean, that's a tall order right there.
I think that's really what CARP's built. And in my opinion, it's still undiscovered as just a broader AI play, which is why I believe they're the Messi of AI. I think there's a golden path right now for them to monetize what we view as potentially $1 trillion market opportunity. And I think investors still have not recognized what this golden goose could be.
Yeah, I mean, as we just mentioned, the stocks moved pretty ferocious.
Wow. So, you know what just hit me right there, right, is how confident that man sounded right there. Like, that was absolutely incredible. And, I mean, geez, that's like talk like I expect from the retail crowd. Like that was, wow. He sounds so dang confident in his statement he just made there. That was incredible.
Discovered as just a broader AI play, which is why I believe they're the Messi of AI. I think there's a golden path right now for them to monetize what we view as potentially $1 trillion market opportunity. And I think investors still have not recognized what this golden goose could be.
Yeah, I mean, as we just mentioned, the stocks moved pretty ferociously here in the last couple of months and since the start of the year. When you think about some of these newer AI applications in real time, they're already being applied on the battlefield. Case in point, Ukraine. Palantir is a key example of that. Do you think this is a situation where investors don't fully understand what this company does because so much of it is defense tech? And yes, I realize it's expanding out to the commercial side too, but there's a lot that they can't talk about, for example.
Well, I think that's the biggest misperception. I can tell you, you know, we're talking to many in the 202 area code. The reputation of Palantir speaks for itself in terms of, you know, any sort of operations, three-letter agencies. Now, if you're an enterprise CIO, and this is the conversations I've had, you're looking toward AI platform approach, Palantir is potentially the first call. And that's why I think in this AI gold rush, what I view as the fourth industrial revolution, of course it's NVIDIA, Microsoft top of the mountain with Nadella. You look at second, third, fourth derivatives, right now Palantir front and center. And that's why I think this is a stock. You look at our bull case model, I think this is ultimately $25. And I think as they execute, more investors start to look at it.
Wow. And the stock's trading at about 17.
So Dan Ives just put Palantir into the same category, right? And mentioned them in the same sentence as companies like NVIDIA and Microsoft, right? Now, what's the difference between Palantir and companies like NVIDIA and Microsoft? Well, let's see. Companies like NVIDIA and Microsoft are like $1 trillion market caps, okay? And here we have Palantir. Oh gosh, what's Palantir's market cap today? Maybe 30, 40 billion, something like that. I know the stock's gone up a lot, so maybe it's a little higher than that, but I'm going to say probably in the 30 to 40 billion dollar range. And so let's see if it pulls up here. $37 billion market cap, right? So, I mean, when you can be mentioned in the same sentence as a $37 billion market cap with companies that are trillion, multi-trillion dollar type market caps, you're doing something right.
About 1750 right now. Steve, want to get your thoughts on this, especially since Alex Karp, one of the co-founders and the current CEO of Palantir, did pen a very long, I'll say, op-ed in the New York Times about AI earlier this week.
Yeah, and comparing it to Oppenheimer and how this is really an opportunity. We hear so much, at least this is Karp's view, we hear so much from the community developing AI about being responsible and safe. And even years ago, he brings up the examples of Microsoft employees upset about working with the Army and Google employees upset about doing the digital satellite imagery. He seems to kind of embrace it. I just want to pick out one quote from this. I mean, he calls for a, quote, more intimate collaboration between the state and technology sector, really comparing it to what Oppenheimer did, if you saw the movie or read the book or the history lesson about that, working hand in hand with the government before someone else does it. And he brings up the case about Ukraine. And I guess the other thing, Dan, I was kind of curious for your take on this, because there is a meme stockiness to Palantir, too. I'm wondering how much of that factors into your calculation there,
too. No doubt. I mean, there's a huge retail presence.
Right.
And I think this is what...
It's so disrespectful. It's so disrespectful. That is so disrespectful. Unbelievable, man. There's a meme stock type thing with this stock. No, there is not. Just because there's a lot of retail investors invest in it does not make it a meme stock, okay? This is no GameStop. There's no AMC, we're going to burn the shorts, okay? No. Like those two those aren't even on the same level, okay? You got to... People that don't even know anything about the market that are gambling money, that were those people in the GameStop and AMC that were bored at home and were just like, let's throw some money in something. And we're gonna make a bunch of money from this AMC to 1,000, all that crap. Okay, no. Palantir's, if you're going to talk about IQ levels, like Palantir investors have such a far exceeding IQ versus any average human out there. It's ridiculous. Their level of understanding about very deep, complicated subjects is insane. That's just so disrespectful, like unbelievable. But at the end of the day, like, we know retail gets disrespected many times. And why does retail get disrespected? Because sometimes retail brings it on themselves with that stupid crap like what happened with GameStop and AMC and all that junk, right? So it is what it is, but man, that was disrespectful.
Or maybe retail has been ahead of institutional in terms of understanding the actual potential AI story. I can tell you...
Just like what happened with Tesla. Tesla was the same exact thing. Retail was ahead of Wall Street. All of us that, back in the day, it was me and like one other person that made Tesla videos on a consistent basis on YouTube. And we were ahead of everybody on Wall Street, right? And we prospered and changed our lives financially because of that, right? And Palantir, we'll see what happens with Palantir, but it looks like it could be the next type of Tesla type stock where retail's way ahead of the crowd, way ahead of Wall Street on this one. And, we're starting to prosper in a pretty significant way, and we'll see what happens in future years.
Conversations today, it's really institutional investors being like, okay, what am I missing in the story? Where is the actual total addressable market opportunity? And can they go from government to commercial? Because I think when you start to look at that, for them is really the opportunity. And if you're a CIO of an enterprise, there's no better reference accounts than those the two areas.
But what does that look like? I mean, if you think about it, okay, so it's very opaque what they're doing on the military side of it. I'm just curious, what does that look like on the commercial side? Like, what are you seeing there? And especially, I know they're growing some clients and so forth. What are you seeing there?
I'd say from a platform approach, in terms of scale, and in terms of actual use cases, they're probably the first call. I think they're probably in this market the purest AI play out there. Now, they built it, others are coming, but it just speaks to our view. In this fourth industrial revolution, Palantir is going to be a big player.
The first time I ever heard a major company say machine learning came from Palantir.
Yeah.
Wow.
And of course, there's applications that, supply chain, which is a big area now for many companies, manufacturing applications. There's something to be said about, okay, you work with...
And I mentioned this, probably a couple of times past in past Palantir interviews, right? And I think this is super important for everybody watching this video to understand this next point I'm about to make, okay? At the end of the day, what is a company? A company is just a organization driven by the employees, right? And the employees are the ones that make the products, right? It's not like Alex Karp's the one, I gotta make this new software and do this and do that and make this new AI and all these sorts of things, right? It's the employee force. And from what I've heard consistently out there is Palantir is one of the hardest companies in the world to get hired at. Their employee force is incredible at that company from everything I've heard. I heard you can get a job at all the other big techs before you get a job at Palantir. That's what I've heard personally from several folks now at this point in time that have either applied and tried to work at Palantir, went through the interview rounds, from people that, let's call it, know people that work inside Palantir and those sorts of things. Because, inside the private stock group, for instance, we have a phenomenal community of Palantir investors. And we have, folks in there from all different walks of life, folks that are, worked for the military and know Palantir's products very well from their days working in the military. We have folks in there that, like I said, have gone through the interview rounds with Palantir and, got job offers from the big tech companies, but they didn't get a job offer from Palantir. And so anyways, the employee force there is pretty amazing, and the products they're building are, the creme de la creme.
You work on, in a classified capacity. You have these high level clearances for things like cloud applications as well, which only handful of companies do. Palantir is one of them. You're going to keep my data safe. I'm sure there's probably that in of itself has a certain cachet with commercial clients, I would imagine. But how does it happen alongside an uncertain macro environment where people are tightening belts?
And then to the tightening belts, I think we started to see with IBM. I think we saw with Microsoft, Google, and others. I mean, for big tech, we're seeing an uptick. Ultimately, when it comes to AI, that's potentially 8 to 10% of budgets next year. And I do think, you talk about reference accounts, you could sleep well at night when Palantir ultimately has your data in terms of from an AI use case perspective. And they're the only ones out there. They've proven it. Now they're proving it in the enterprise. That becomes a bigger piece. That's why then the stock gets re-rated, which is why we're bullish on it.
Yeah, Palantir has the highest level of government clearance you could possibly get when it comes to protecting data and those sorts of things. So I think that's massive, right? I mean, who else really has that? I mean, it's incredible. And I'm just thinking about Palantir. And here's the way I think about it. And we're going to see with their numbers over the next several quarters if, it's put up or shut up time in terms of the numbers and actually putting this together, right? But think of it like this. You have two companies that seem like they are in the perfect scenario to capitalize on AI in a massive way. One is clear, that's NVIDIA, right? They've already put up the guidance numbers to tell you, wow, yes, this is absolutely no doubt. This whole AI revolution is started by NVIDIA, and without NVIDIA, none of this really can transpire, right? And then I look at Palantir as the second company that looks like it's going to be so well positioned to capitalize from years from this, but we haven't got the concrete evidence and the numbers yet. And that's where this earnings report comes in that's going to be so huge. Not just really looking at the past numbers, but what does Karp have to say about guidance? What does he have to say about growth rates moving forward? Is this going to be a company that's growing 20%, 30%, or 40%? What are we talking about here? Or is it going to be such a shocking number that all of us are blown away and it's like an NVIDIA type moment where they were expected to grow 6% and then they're like, no, we're growing 60% next quarter. That's what remains to be seen in regards to this Palantir. And if you're thinking about what takes a stock from, like I said recently, it was $16 stock, what takes it to 32, that's what takes it to 32. If they can come in and actually put up the numbers and say, we're getting back to mega growth here, oh my gosh, that's a game changer. And then if they also start to be known as the AI company, oh, it's game over at that point in time, right? So it's really exciting time to be a Palantir shareholder. There's still a lot of unknowns, but it's one of those interesting moments before you get to all the clarity. Once you get to all the clarity, it's not as interesting, right? It still could be a huge money-making stock, but it's just not as much of a fun time. Stocks are more fun when you're kind of in that unknown. It reminds me of like Tesla in 2019. Being an investor in 2019 in Tesla, man, it was a lot of unknown. And, is this actually going to work? And then, it got proved out over time. And it just feels like this is Tesla 2019, but it's Palantir 2023. Alrighty, guys, next video up here. We have entered in a renewed era of stock picking. This should be interesting.
Just Brian Belsky has a year-end target of 4550 for the S&P 500, which is just about where we are right now, Brian. We've been talking a lot about how difficult the last mile is for the Fed. That doesn't sound like an environment where you want to be long the index in general.
No, I don't think so. Thanks so much for having us, by the way. We've been saying now for several months that we have entered a renewed era of stock picking. And I think the problem with most investors, not only institutional, but high net worth investors, that they're trying to make a call on the S&P or the Qs or the diamonds. And we have to remember that the stock market is a market of stocks. And just look at the earnings season and how certain companies are doing better than other companies, how the big banks are doing better than the regionals, on how semiconductor companies are doing better than other semiconductor companies. I don't think you want to be in these more passive type of index level ETFs, let's just say. I think you want to own stocks in here. And I think that portends to an overall trend, Melissa, that I think many people are missing. Is in the beginning of the year, everybody talked about this path toward normalization. I think what is going on is 2022 was your shock. 2023 was your awe. And as we kind of transition into more fundamental investing, we're going to kind of get back into normalized returns. And I think that's very, very positive for the markets longer term.
So,
preaching to the choir. That's what comes to mind. 100%. Okay. Yes. You know, everybody got very spoiled for a long time. Index funds, oh, it's such easy money. I make my 8%, 9% a year, right? That's all fine until it doesn't work anymore, right? At the end of the day, we do know something consistently throughout time, and that is certain companies are going to massively outperform, and certain companies can change your life financially, right? It is something we do know. Why would I want to own 100 stocks, 500 stocks, 1,000 stocks when I can own the 20, 30 best stocks for the next 5 to 10 years? I want to pick the best companies. I don't want to be in so-so companies. I don't want to be in okay companies. I want companies that have incredible risk-reward profiles for the next 5, 10 years in front of them. That's what I want to be part of. And so when you really begin to understand this on a higher level, when you look at inflation rates, and let's imagine just we're at a higher inflation rate for the next many years, right? It's going to eat into your S&P 500 returns. You have how many stocks do we know of this year that are performing incredible? Like it's certainly not the whole market. The Dow's up, 8% roughly this year, 7%. That's how much the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the most famous index, is up this year, right? And you look at a lot of these stocks, TradingView's working really slow today. I don't know what's going on, but just go through big tech. Go through, many of the stocks that I own, and you're going to find nothing but a whole ton of stocks up 50%, 70%, 100%, 150%, 200%. And meanwhile, the Dow and S&P are doing okay. And so that's where you're getting into this, I agree, this era of the stock pickers are going to be what works. And also, I think the other winners for this next many years is going to be the people that know how to hedge. I truly believe that. And there's a reason I've taken it so serious, because at the end of the day, I think there's going to be some major down years when things get really, really shaky. And I think the thing that will save a lot of people will not actually be cash, but it will actually be proper hedges that will print money, and you'll be able to go ahead and take advantage of incredible deals on assets during those time periods. I think that's really what this decade is that we have going on right now, 2020 through 2030. That's what we have going on. This is a decade of being able to properly run portfolios to a very high level, and the winners are going to come out of this decade filthy rich, and the people that don't know how to do that are just going to be lagging in an incredibly substantial way. That's exactly how this is going to play out, my opinion.
Been calling for this style of investing for the past several months, Brian. I mean, index investing was easy. It was the time to just go into ETF. It was the time just to own the Qs, and you could have been a winner so far year to date. So how do you sort of square that, saying that stock picking was...
You're not a winner year to date when you're getting 3x'd, 4x'd, and 5x'd by companies out there in terms of their stock price performance versus your index. That's not winning. It's losing. Call it what it is. It's like me running a marathon and I get, 50th place and I'm like, hey, I did good for myself. Sure, I did good. That's cool. But there's 49 other people that beat me.
The way you should go for the past several months, when it really was just investing in the index, investing in big ETFs. That was the easy way to go.
Actually, no, I will kind of go against that a little bit. Okay. So let's think about this. Since the beginning of the year, Melissa, we've had 3 very distinct tech market trades, right? In January was the January effect. In March was the rotation out of financials into tech. And then really what we believe is the real true thematic fundamental move was more into the AI side of things. If you go back and look at what the market's done in January and February, actually value was outperforming and small cap was outperforming. It was really the March kerfuffle with financials that kind of really kickstarted this whole notion of what everybody likes to talk about as the Magnificent Seven. But what the thing that people are missing right now is that over the last 30 days, growth at a reasonable price has outperformed the S&P 500 by almost 300 basis points. But more importantly, and I think interestingly to us in our work, is that dividend growth as a strategy has massively outperformed the last 30 years, and no one is talking about that. I think what the issue is that we're starting to see a broadening out of the market, and you take
GVD, growth, value, dividends. Got to take advantage of all three in the market, build your portfolio out with all three.
look at stock performance, earnings growth, valuation. The disparity within those three measurements is very wide. That tells you you want to own a Lilly right now versus a Pfizer, or you want to own NVIDIA and AMD versus Intel. Intel just came out of a period where they were losing money. You want to buy companies that are earning money over the long term with proven track record in terms of not only their product or service that they're providing, but their company management as well.
Do you need to see soft landing / no landing in order for your forecast to come true? I mean, what's the sort of backdrop that you need to see?
No, I don't need to see either, because the stock market last year said that we're going to see some sort of a slowdown. When the stock market's down more than 25%, it says that some sort of recession is coming. Whether or not we actually see an absolute recession, Melissa, I think it's a moot point. I think this obsession with recession and the Chicken Little recession that everybody keeps on trying to call, it keeps getting pushed out. So what we need to see to get to our 50-50 bull case scenario for the S&P 500 are earnings to reaccelerate. We're starting to see that. So it looks more and more like our bull case for the S&P 500 target that we have at 5,050 looks more and more realistic.
Yeah, fair play. And, just to reiterate, always in life, we do know the people that work the hardest always get the stuff at the end of the pie. We always know that, right? And I can just tell you, stock picking definitely has changed there's no way I would be where I'm at financially in life without the stock market and without doing this on a high level for 15 years now at this point in time. You're going to take some lumps, you're going to take some losses. That's part of the game. No one's 100%. You're going to lose some money sometimes. Some things aren't going to work out. Sometimes things are going to work out way better than you ever anticipated, right? We spoke about Palantir. Maybe that's a stock that, I'm going to be up 10x on someday. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. We'll see what happens, right? I'm already doubled my money on that one. And, Tesla, that stock went up so much faster than I ever anticipated. I have shares I'm sitting on today that I'm up over 2,000% on when it comes to Tesla. And that's a stock I've held for maybe 5 years, 6 years, something like that. It's not like it's been forever and ever. And so there's going to be certain stocks you own that literally just things. ELF's a great example. I'm up 1,400% on my ELF shares, right? $7,200 is like my cost basis, and those shares are worth $114,000 today, right? Those are what I call life-changing stocks. And so, sometimes things are going to roll really bad, and you're like, damn, man, why didn't this work out? And other times you're just going to be like, this is so phenomenal, and that's why stock picking is the whole game. I appreciate everybody joining me as always. Thanks so much, folks. Make sure you get access to that free video I put out for you guys, a free workshop. It's about a 30-minute video. You're going to get a lot of value out of that. That's going to be pinned comment down there for access on how I find 10x stocks. Much love and have a great day.